Okay, so I'm just going to read a little bit of what Jimmy Paine sent me in email starting in February here. Um, it's This is kind of some interesting stuff, and I talked to him about this, and some things I'm going to talk about, some things I'm not. So this is just interesting, relevant information. So, so Jimmy said, Richard, I know you were trying to do the best job and expose these creatures, but there are well over 200 creatures in numbers, and that was my last count 20 years ago. I think you should consider and work with James, as safety is in numbers, and when one looks at the fact LA is too large, best to move to a small town and get out of the city. You know, that news reporter Tucker Carlson was attacked and had claw marks all over. If these creatures want you, it's best to simply move and change your name and then set up another YouTube account and let the public know that creatures run the government. Anyhow, keep up your work, and I do watch your YouTube posts. So that was Jimmy Paine there, the man, the myth, and once again, regardless of any views or differences that people may have with people's views, like I said, the reason I'm posting his movies is because he indicated that that's what he wanted me to do because they had been taken down on YouTube. But you can see that he knows all about this stuff about and of course he doesn't agree with the fact that I show my face and everything. I personally think there's kind of more safety in that, because if they take me out, it'll show up, because if I stop posting, because people know for the last 13 years or 12 years, whatever it's been, I post pretty regularly, except for that one time that I got fed up with YouTube censorship and I just started posting on Rumble and BitChute and Brighteon, and but then after a while I realized that I needed to go back, because there's a lot more people that actually see the videos on YouTube. But yeah, I mean, and as far as over 200 creatures, to me, I think there's a lot more. Or I mean, well, he said 20 years ago, so but I mean, I think we're inundated. And maybe he's talking about a certain kind of creature, like we're talking about the reptilians. I'm not sure, but and also, of course, everybody has told me over the years to move out of LA. It's reptilian central, but I'm not leaving, as far as I know, because there is something that I have to do here. That's why I'm here, and I think it has something to do with the liberation of our world. I don't know. Okay, so at the end of one email, I say I was talking about my encounter with the angels and that and everything, and that I ran into three people who saw Satan's avatar Lucifer as someone with long, curly white hair, a Caucasian man, a good-looking Caucasian man with long, curly white hair, and that they knew it was Satan, Lucifer. Lucifer is the name of the avatar. Okay, so that's my take on what the whole Satan Lucifer thing is, if you're wondering what that is, or that's my take on it. A lot of people have different opinions, like it's a different person or whatever. What I believe is that Satan's soul is leaving his giant blood red bullhorned reptilian form, and his soul enters into an avatar body, which is this handsome Caucasian man with long curly white hair, and he conducts a lot of business that way, including attacking my Anna and friends. But so I asked him, I said, what do you think about this? And his answer was, here I'm giving it directly what he's saying: Starfleet Prime Directive 1, Prime Directive 2. I couldn't find out what exactly he meant by that. Let's see what more he says here. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read this. This is interesting stuff about, because he was obviously in Starfleet, and it's all rather interesting because it turns out all that's real. Here's what he said. Crew will obey the following with any civilization that has not achieved a commensurate level of technological and/or social development as described in Appendix 1. A. No identification of self or mission. B. No interference with social, cultural, or technological development of said planet. C. No reference to space, other worlds, or advanced civilizations. D. The exception to this is if said society has already been exposed to the concepts listed herein. However, in that instance, Section 2 applies. Section 2. If said species has achieved the commensurate level of technological and/or social development as described in Appendix 1, or has been exposed to the concepts listed in Section 1, so he's obviously reading from something, no Starfleet crew person will engage with said society or species without first gathering extensive information on the specific traditions, laws, and culture of that species' civilization. Then Starfleet crew will obey the following. A. If engaged with diplomatic relations with said culture, will stay within the confines of said culture's restrictions. B. No interference with social development of said planet. The prime directive are frequently applied to less developed planets which have not yet discovered warp travel or subspace communication technology. Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. Let's see what else he says here. Okay, so we get into some interesting discussions here. He says in some of the things that I was talking with him about of what I encountered, he said he was friends with the actor and martial arts master Bruce Lee. Interesting. Let's see. And then he says Bruce Lee was poisoned, murdered over his last movie. So he confirmed something I had seen online, that it was because of the movie that he made with this studio that was another studio, and I think that previous studio got pissed, from what I remember of the report, and they decided to off him. Okay, so I asked him because I had heard him in one of his talks mention that the whole thing with the second Xenomorph movie, the Aliens series, so there was Alien, this was the first one, and Aliens, the second one. And so I asked him, I said, what about the second Alien movie with Marines on LV-426? Was it somewhat accurate? What was the difference from the movie? And he replied, Colonial Marine Corps of the United States of America, not United States Marines. Big difference. Okay, wait, let me read that again just to be sure I got it right. I didn't quite get that right. He says, Colonial Marine Corps of United America, not United States Marines. Big difference. Okay, so there's a whole, as we know, there's a whole breakaway society, secret military operations, including these super soldiers and all this off-world stuff going on. So he's explaining here that there's this different, he's basically talking about the secret space program, off-world military, a faction of someone's, some American military. But it says here, he said, Colonial Marine Corps of United America, not United States Marines. Big difference. Pretty interesting. So I asked him, I said, does that movie Aliens give a basic tale of what happened with the shake and bake colony that they mention in the beginning of the movie? Jimmy replies, yes, but Ripley did not engage the alien. I fell into the air shaft and crawled up the ladder, hit the red button open hatch, and the Queen blown into outer space. That was the second movie. The first movie was when I was working towing iron ore, and I was Captain Dallas. Ripley got hold of the report and sold it to movie producer John Cameron, and he wrote Ripley in. Ripley always up to screw things up. She batshit crazy. As for Bruce Lee, yes, it was over movie rights. I know little, only trained under him for a while, then I moved on in life. So he was just finishing up the conversation about Bruce Lee. Oh, here's interesting. He had some control over this crow here, or he would send crows. And by the way, I believe also, as I detailed in my report about all the events that happened with the monastery in Thailand while all that was going on with the angel, that we knew that Satan had sent these crows as eyes to the as Satan's like cameras basically to the monastery. And there's this whole row of crows, and then at one time the angel called down lightning and blew them off the wall one time. But here's what Jimmy Paine says. He says, Bruce Lee's son had his father's interest at heart. I sent Black Crow to check on how he was doing time to time. The crow would spy on the warlock and witch that was after the kid. The last I heard, the kid was no longer alive, so I set the crow free, being loyal to the Paiute tribe. The crow was very smart. I missed the crow. Yeah, I kind of got that the crows are kind of cool. You know, you'd like them as friends. And by the way, I told you about that really weird thing. The crows actually precognize my belching. Before I belch, they go, craw, 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 and then I go, rah. And it's not because I didn't remember that. I've noticed this weird thing happening. Okay, here's more from Jimmy Paine. I have another friend. I was ordered to report to Defense Intelligence Agency at Fort Meade. I made a new friend, the goat. I and the goat used to communicate by me looking the goat in the eye. You know, communicating like aliens do. Well, the goat told me things about the NSA. Now, I think the goat has a lot of wild things to share about the agency. The goat said that President Obama likes to read Marvel comic books. Their alien is a dude named the Green Lantern. Seems the two are queer. Anyhow, the goat told me things about the CIA and the likes, like George Bush being a lizard. You know, he has the same black spots like the lizard president of Mexico, President Fox. Anyhow, now that same goat also told me things about the Queen of England and King Charles. Things like grandmother Queen Victory's son was Jack the Ripper back in the day. Goats always communicate these secrets. So I had enough of the agency and I walked through a wall. He walked through a wall, is what he's saying. No one knew what happened to me, so I started a new life as Jimmy Paine, as a Men in Black. But now I am retired and tell my old X-Files stories to James Rink. As for those big lizards causing trouble, I have a very large Bigfoot who is very able to beat lizards to death. Okay, the sentence was kind of, that I kind of paraphrased it there, but I'll just read it verbatim just so you don't see that I'm trying to embellish anything he's saying. I have a very large Bigfoot who is very able to beat to death any lizard. I now have a quiet life free of all three-letter agencies. All agencies have no secrets to Chinese or Russian agencies. That's interesting. So he's saying that our agencies don't have secrets from Russian and Chinese agencies. An interesting tidbit there. Okay, just to so that you know, I just read real quick that he wanted me to repost his videos. Jimmy Paine says, "You are welcome to repost my video. As for the other video, I do not interfere with Earth political issues. I have proton mail, but I do not in need of any government information. Once did Edward Snowden job down at Fort Tilden. I need no intelligence, no CIA info is not needed. I rather walk. It's best this time in life. They don't like paperclip MIB." Okay, I don't know what a lot of the rest of that was. He says, if you watch the movie They Live, you notice actor Randy Piper wears sunglasses and he can see the creatures. So I already know, Richard, this is nothing new. Yes, I use Bigfoot to beat to death reptilians, so reptilians do not cause trouble, but the ones that do are pure evil. It's interesting. Okay, so the next email that I need to start reading from Jimmy Paine was March 4th, and we'll do that next time.